Cool.
Sammy?
So I'm going to build on that for a little bit, and we'll see where we go from there. So all good stuff, really practical things you can think about doing. What I'd like you to think about in addition to that is how you can put that together in a program that allows you to hit those items every day. There's a lot of little things to think about. We laugh at policy. It's funny. We laugh at policy wonks. We laugh at people who write policy who have never implemented a procedure because, well, it's fun to laugh at them. They've never actually touched one, but, man, they can write a policy about one. On the other hand, policy captures how we want to run our business. You probably have policy for your home, too, although you may not have documented it as such. You probably have a pretty good idea of how you want to run your home, how you want to raise your children, how you want to use your computers. You've documented that up here, and you live it every day. You're going to do the same sorts of things at your company as well. So we're going to have policy about wireless. We're going to have policies about computers. We're going to have policies about how people do things. Excuse me. We've seen this in other vertical markets, in other firms, and other organizations before. And so I just want to give you a little bit of that background so that you understand that you're not coming at this cold turkey. This is not the first time anybody's ever faced these kinds of problems that we're talking about with cybersecurity, with other things that are coming at you now very fast, very furious. And we want to move them along even faster because there's a lot of interest in the marketplace. There's a lot of interest in the country. There's a lot of interest in how people think about the energy problem today that want to move us along a little faster. There are some things that take as long as they take. We all know that. We all have something that we understand very well, and somebody wants us to do it faster, and we all know it takes as long as it takes. We saw this in the retail industry. From Cigital's point of view, we saw this in the retail industry a while back. We saw it where people wanted to automate properties in a way that they had not been automated before. So think about having locations, having sub-locations, starting to tie these things together with networks, starting to make these networks secure, starting to wonder what's actually going over these networks. Is Bob also surfing the web over these work computers, or are they doing other things? Is that against policy? Who decides? Is it a local matter? There are state laws for co-ops. There are federal laws for co-ops. There are data retention laws. There are privacy breach laws. Who gets to decide? Okay, so there are some considerations here that are a little bit beyond some of the practical things, which you must do, but that tie into how you run your business, that tie into the risk management program that allows you to do all these things successfully, effectively, and perhaps most importantly, economically. Because we're not out to break the bank here. We're out to do something that is going to allow us to move our method of doing business into the next, phase, into the next century, however you want to think about it. We saw similar things in the retail industry. They were having problems. There were data breaches. There were things that were going on. There were hacks. Systems were getting broken into. Things just weren't going well. They were under impending regulation. PCI came along and said, we can self-regulate a little bit. Give us a chance. Let us do a few things. This is a huge change for tens of thousands of organizations. This took years, and it's still ongoing. So the large organizations had to bite the bullet and start doing some security things very quickly. And the next layer of organizations came along a little later, and the next layer of organizations came along a little after that. They're learning as they go along. The standard has been improving. People's cybersecurity, if you want to think of it that way, has been improving. And it's all been driven from what we understand at the time that we understand it and where we're moving it down the road. We understand where we're going, we understand the target, we understand the risk, and we're lagging behind in the things that we can actually implement. These are going to be, again, very, very practical things that you're going to put together in order to build a security story in your organization. Just like you do at your home, just like you've taught your kids over the years, you've added layers and layers and layers of things as they become more sophisticated so that they can understand the world around them. We're going to do the same thing with cybersecurity in your organizations, and it's going to work. Again, we've seen it before. We saw it in the medical industry. We saw it with HIPAA. It took years before HIPAA started actively being enforced. HIPAA's been around for years. The first real enforcement action took place last year. And there have only been one or two others since then. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to get enforced in the same way. What I'm saying is that everyone is learning, not just your organization, not just the people who are making the standards, but the people who are enforcing the rules as well. So when you make a program that allows you to move along in this fluid environment that we're in, with the laws, with the standards, the federal laws, the state laws, socioeconomic drivers, okay? You're going to have access to data that you've never had access to before. You're going to have views into people's private lives that even the people who are providing the data to you will not understand. Okay, they will not understand that you can see spikes in data usage that tell when people are home and when they're not, when people are cooking dinner and when they're not, when there were 2 people in that home and maybe somebody else was off on vacation or something else, you know. They will not understand that. And you will have that data, and you will have a public trust to serve. And that falls under cybersecurity as well. All of these things are going to come to play. And again, these problems have been addressed, not solved, in other industries. Some of the solutions have become commodities. Some of these commodities are available to you. Some of them look like trusted wireless and strong firewalls and other things. Some of them are going to be a little more complicated because your setup is going to be a little more complicated. But those are some of the easier things. And you can start with them, you can plan for them, you can move along with them, you can budget for them because they're mostly commodities. And then there are going to be some harder things that you're going to have to deal with, and these are going to be custom. And it's going to be interesting for you to realize that, that's the wrong choice of words. It's going to be important for you to realize that because it's going to be interesting how different some of the solution will be for each of you. There will be common solutions across co-ops. I'm sure NRECA and other organizations are thinking about these common solutions. But there are going to be things that are very, very specific to you. Not only because of where you are, who you are, how big you are, your state and local and federal laws, but also because of how you've chosen to run your business. And so there will be a few things about, some of the big items, the NERC CIPs or the smart grid standards that are going to be unique to you. Large data storage, outsourcing, backup, encrypted databases. Oh my God. These are going to start being questions you're going to have to answer over time. These are not, as Wally was saying, these are not the questions you have to answer today. Today, get yourself organized around a program, get thinking about cybersecurity, bring it into your organization, take advantage of what others have learned. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, very good, gentlemen. All right, again, this session is Ask the Cyber Dudes. So as you have questions, put them on a card, wave your cards. We've got some roving microphones, and be happy to try to address what's on your mind in relation to both business and more personal cybersecurity. So I have a question back there, the way it looks. Thank you, George.
Everyone thinks that cybersecurity is from the outside. How do you protect it from the inside? From whether it's a disgruntled employee or something like that?
Well, we're starting out hard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All your employees need to stay gruntled, and you're okay.
Okay, so it's hard to answer that question without jargon, so I apologize in advance. We talk about a layered defense. I'm sure you see that everywhere. It's kind of a geek term for, we're going to put a lock on the front door, and then we're going to put a lock on the dog door, and then we're going to put a lock on the garage door, and then we're going to put a lock on the computer, and then we're going to put something in our web browser, and then we're going to turn on our personal firewall. When we get to the point where a single individual can break your corporate policy to the point where some piece of your system violates federal law, the public trust, whatever, then we have a bad management practice, okay? I'm not saying that somebody can't go bad, somebody can't break in and start, doing something with a gun or whatever, but in theory, we understand the financial services industry and others understand how to prevent simple collusion, how to do other things that prevent people from abusing data. Sometimes we can only catch it after the fact. So you've all heard about, hospital employees that peruse the records of stars and others who have come in. We can at least catch that after the fact. We can't always stop it in real time. The same thing is going to happen here. Again, these are problems that have been addressed to a large extent. You will have the advantage of taking advantage of other people's solutions, and I highly encourage you to do so.